Hey everybody, it's Dr. Chris with Texas Chiro Health. Welcome back to our 12 Minutes to Health, and as always, thank you guys for joining us each and every week so that we can help you to better understand how to live a healthy lifestyle according to the research and what the medical journals have to say about us being healthy and reaching our optimum levels of health. For us in the clinic, taking care of patients is one thing, but helping educate the community is what we really enjoy doing. So this is our opportunity to give you, the unbiased facts of what's available in the research. And the research isn't always what we're told is research, right? There's a lot of research out there that is just simply marketing and sales to get people to buy their products. And I talk to you guys about that each week, but it really is important that we dig into the actual randomized controlled trials and the reviews of the literature that dig into what is really being said about how do we reach homeostasis and how do we stay there? How do we live our healthiest lifestyle? So this is our opportunity to do that for you, and I really appreciate you guys for being here. As always, we do this every Tuesday night in our clinics. We start at 5:15. Great opportunity for you guys to get in there, get the information, grab the research, read it for yourself. Don't just take my word on all this stuff. Not that I would ever lie to you, but it's important that you find the answers for yourself and that you get into the clinic, talk to the doctors, get your questions answered. And, we'll have refreshments and green shakes and healthy snacks there for you as well. So join us every Tuesday at 5:15 in the clinic. And if you or your company would ever like us to come out to you guys, bring you a healthy lunch and present some of this information to you and your teams and your family and your loved ones, reach out, let us know. We do it each and every week, and we love getting out into the community. It's our best way to make an impact on the health of our community and to help drive health in general for you and your family and friends. So reach out, let us know whatever we can do. With all that being said, let's go ahead and dive into the research here. The study that we're looking at today is a review of the literature. It was done by Bangmark et al. And this is kind of one of those staple studies in probiotics. Recently, probiotics have become kind of all the rage, right? There's a ton of information coming out about them. We find out new stuff all the time. Yeah, they help with digestion and gut type related diseases like Crohn's and irritable bowel and things like that. But there's overall health benefits that are just endless to probiotics, and we're finding out more and more about it. So this research is hugely important, and it's one of the reasons that we have all of our patients taking a good quality organic probiotic supplement that is cultured and created in the right ways, which I'll talk about here in a little bit. But this study looks at immunonutrition, right? The role of biosurfactants, fiber, and probiotic bacteria. So essentially they were trying to figure out, can we use probiotics to not just be healthy, but even address certain illnesses and replace certain therapies? And what does that look like for our overall health? Are there side effects? Are there things like that? And what they find is truly incredible, that probiotics are just, they're vastly important to our overall health and helps with a ton of different disorders. So, and there are no negative side effects from the probiotic bacteria. So that's a big thing as well, because our body needs it. There shouldn't be negative side effects. It's something that our body uses every single day, and our gut is very, very important to our health. When we look at the gut, what's really important is studying the gut wall, okay? Because the gut wall is actually only one cell layer thick. So that's not very thick. Things can get in and out of there pretty easily if our gut wall isn't healthy. And that's why we have to have the bacteria in our gut. We have 100 trillion bacteria in our gut. That's more than 10 times all the rest of the cells in our body combined. Okay, so this is a big deal. If there's that much of it, we really need to make sure it's healthy and we're taking care of our gut. One of the biggest roles that these bacteria play is in preventing leaky gut. Now, you may have heard of leaky gut. Leaky gut has kind of come on, and we've noticed the association with leaky gut, which is basically just large molecules getting through our gut wall, things that are penetrating our gut wall that never have before, and creating a ton of inflammation. So what that's doing is they're linking it to, all the chronic diseases. Chronic inflammation is always related to the chronic diseases, the cancers, the diabetes, the heart disease, the obesities, the strokes, you name it. But it's also starting to pop up in all our autoimmune disorders. So psoriasis, lupus, rheumatoid arthritis, the autoimmune things that we're seeing have a link to leaky gut. And if we don't have the bacteria, our gut will be leaky. The bacteria binds to the wall of the gut and tightens up that one cell layer thick lining I was talking about. There's what they call gap junctions in there where things can get through. Well, if we can tighten those by way of bacteria, we are much less likely to have any kind of leaky gut and chronic inflammation from our gut. And outside of that, about 70% of our immune system is in our gut, which we'll talk about here in a minute. But it's just, it just goes to show further that it is vitally important that we have a healthy gut, a great microbiome, which is the bacteria in our gut, and that we're feeding them and that they're healthy and things as well. Now, not all gut bacteria bind to the gut lining, and that's really important because I get this question all the time from patients about dairy. And yogurt in particular. People, when I tell them, it's time to get on a good bacteria, good probiotic, they say, I think I'm good. I eat a ton of yogurt. And while yogurt does have a lot of bacteria in it, and isn't necessarily bad bacteria, it's not the most beneficial bacteria. What they found in this study is that the bacteria found in yogurt does not bind to the cell wall. Okay, so it just passes through the gut. Now, while that does serve somewhat of a purpose, it's not that we need more of the binding gut protein. And like I said, this bacteria doesn't hurt us. It's just not as beneficial as other bacteria. And in this, they looked at about 500 different bacteria species and genus and species, and they looked at all these different bacteria, and they found only a few actually bind to the gut wall. And that's hugely important. One they really focus in on here is Lactobacillus plantarum. All right. Now, I can get into all the other names, but they're not important. That one is important to this study. But what's more important is that you understand that this bacteria has to bind to the gut wall, tighten those gap junctions, and then serve all the other functions that it serves as well, which we'll get into here. But the bacteria found in yogurt does not bind to the gut wall and is not sufficient for human beings to have a diverse and fulfilled microbiome. So very important. Yogurt alone won't do it. We need to supplement this with a good quality supplement. Some of the things that the bacteria do when they do bind is they start to go to work, right? We have this symbiotic relationship. We provide housing for them and give them the ability, when we're feeding them correctly, to survive, reproduce, and continue evolving. So that's a big deal because they provide for us all these other health benefits. That's why they say it's a symbiotic relationship. They decrease our inflammation, tighten up our gap junctions. They synthesize vitamin K2 in our bodies. So if we are low on vitamin K, a lot of times that's because we don't have a diverse enough bacterium to produce the vitamin K2 that should be produced by our bodies. The same thing happens with B vitamins. This is one of the biggest things I find in my middle-aged to older population, that they have less energy than they used to, and they're looking for all the answers. And B vitamins is one that always pops up. But if we look at the cause of the deficiency of B vitamins, what we find is that the bacteria is not at the right level because we synthesize B vitamins through the bacteria and their processes, and that actually gives us more energy. So people start feeling way better when they start building up their microbiome and their gut flora by way of probiotic bacteria. So that's another big deal. Another thing we find is the short-chain fatty acids. I talk to you guys all the time about omega-3 fats, and they're vitally important to our health. They're used by every single cell, even the cells in the gut wall, right? The lining, the cell wall of those cells is made up of these fats. So it's hugely important that we have these fats. And what they found in the study is that the higher your gut flora count, right, the healthier your gut is, the more freely available omega-3 fatty acids you have in your blood. Okay, and that's not because we're taking more omega-3 fatty acids, it's because we're preserving them, we're protecting them, and we're using them the way they should be. All right, so if we start taking those and the bacteria, they start to work together and we become healthier and healthier, lowering inflammation, lowering all these diseases and chronic inflammation that I've talked to you about in the past. So yes, it's important to take an omega-3, but if you want to maximize that, you've got to have a good microbiome and gut flora. So that's a big one. The breakdown of proteins, digestion, right? It makes sense that bacteria in our gut would help digest things. But what we don't always make sense out of is the fact that when it's not there, these proteins don't get broken down all the way. And these larger molecules start to leak through the gut, right? This gets back to the leaky gut thing. So by not fully digesting things that are supposed to be digested there, we're running into inflammation problems. So having the right amount of bacteria can curve that because we'll break down the protein. And then, as I always talk to you guys about, flying here, is the inflammation. And this is the biggest deal for me, because inflammation, chronic inflammation, is the root cause of all of the major killers in the United States right now. When you look at cancer, heart disease, diabetes, all the things that we talk about regularly. And that's coming from the leaky gut. It's just causing a ton of inflammation. We're not breaking food down the way we should. We don't have the energy. We don't have the short-chain fatty acids. And it all goes back to that root cause of not having enough bacteria in our gut. And that's what I said, it's important to get a good quality bacteria probiotic. Couple things to look for. We use innate choice probiotics in our clinics, and the reason we do that is because it's grown on an algae medium. A lot of these are grown in yeast or corn, which makes them inflammatory and changes the bacteria. So you're going to have more inflammation. It's not going to be as good for you taking a probiotic like that. And another thing to look for is to make sure that it has those gut-binding bacteria, because a lot of them will have 50, 60 different types of bacteria, and yeah, that's great, but they don't all bind to the gut, and they're not necessary. So what we need to do is find the ones that our species needs to go through the synthesizing of all these products, the digestion, the protection, the anti-inflammation properties, and make sure that's in it. So I think our probiotic only has 7 or 8 strands of bacteria in it, but they're very important bacteria based on the research of what actually binds to our gut. So, and always make sure it's refrigerated. That's to keep moisture out. You can keep it in the fridge or the freezer, but you don't want moisture to get in there, because that will decrease the number of live bacterial cells that you get into your body and are able to use in the gut. So a good probiotic is very important. We look at the immune system and how probiotics play their role there. And this is cool because I mentioned earlier, 70% of our immune system is located in our gut. So that right there says, hey, you've got to have a healthy gut if your immune system's going to function the way that it should. Okay, now omega-3s, vitamin D, all this stuff plays into it as well. But the biggest roles that probiotics play is by binding to the gut wall. When foreign invaders come in, via virus, bad bacteria, funguses, yeasts, they want to bind to the gut wall so they can penetrate. Well, if there's no binding sites, they have nowhere to go. And if the good bacteria is fighting for food, right, fiber, the biosurfactants, the fiber, the stuff that I was talking about earlier, when we eat good, healthy food, that feeds that bacteria. Avocados, leafy green vegetables, carrots, all this stuff feeds that bacteria. Well, it also feeds bad bacteria. So if there's not good bacteria present, we're just helping this bad bacteria survive. But if there is good bacteria present, then it fights for that food and it starves out the bad bacteria, viruses, fungus, yeast, you name it, the invaders that we have. So by blocking the binding sites, the bacteria, the invaders have nowhere to go. And then by starving them out, we're actually destroying them off, making our immune system's job just that much easier, right? That is the first line of our immune system defense, is that mucosal lining. So a really big deal that we keep this healthy bacteria in there so that we do not have to be afraid of bacteria and viruses and things like that. Our body is made to fight these things off as long as we support our body with what it needs in the correct amounts and things. And the amounts are a big deal, because currently, if you look at our Stone Age ancestors, we consume about 1 million times less per day bacteria than they did. Okay, so our Stone Age ancestors obviously didn't have refrigeration, right? They didn't have chlorination and the cleaning of all the food that we see, right? The pesticides and things like that. This kind of stuff is destroying our bacteria, and we're now not consuming enough of it. So if you look at medicine, let's take antibiotics, for example. This article went on to show, this research piece went on to show that by taking some of the medicines that we're taking, we're actually destroying our gut flora. We're treating a symptom and we're throwing a Band-Aid on there, but some studies have said bacteria can be, your microbiome can be deplenished for up to 2 years by just taking an antibiotic. 1 round of antibiotics, I think it was a Z-Pak that study did, totally depletes your good, healthy bacteria. Now, while that may fight off a virus right then, what do you do for the next 2 years? Your body's compromised. You're not at homeostasis, and you need to pay attention to that. You've got to build those levels back up. And what we find is that if we get those levels up, we don't have the need for gut-destroying antibiotics and things of that nature. So this Lactobacillus plantarum that I was talking about, they're starting to use this as a alternate method to antibiotics. And based off of everything that I'm telling you here, we're just blocking the binding sites, we're starving out the bad bacteria, and we're having great success at keeping people healthy. So very, very important that we start to get more and more of this bacteria. We just cannot do it in our food supply today. That's why you have to take a good quality probiotic supplement. So ours, like I said, is Innate Choice. It's not the only good one out there. I also like Claire Labs is another good one that I've given to my kids, and I took myself before I found Innate Choice. I think Innate Choice is better. That's why I switched, but it is a good one. But really, those are the only two that I can think of in the thousands of probiotics that I've looked at that are out there. So very important that we get you guys on these supplements and that you understand the importance of increasing your levels of bacterial consumption. So I know 12 minutes is not enough time for us to cover all this stuff, guys, and that's one of the reasons that we do our special offer here. You know, $39 donation from anyone you know, go to our local monthly charity. We'll get them into the clinic and cover their x-rays, the exam, the consultation. We use a proprietary health software called the Spinal Health Assessment so that we can look at your overall lifestyle, assess the problems that you're having, whether that's pain and discomfort or headaches, or whether that's, hey, I just don't feel like I have the energy I used to. I don't feel healthy. I know I could be healthier. This test, this software allows us to look at all of your lifestyle and problem areas and figure out exactly what's going on. It gives you a health score from 1 to 100 so that we can come up with a plan on how to get you guys healthy, out of pain, back to doing what you love, back to enjoying life and just reaching homeostasis. So, you know, if you guys need anything, give us a call. It's just $39 and we've lowered it as low as we can just because we want to remove the excuses and the barriers that stop people from coming in. And we want to give back to our charities as well. So take advantage of this offer, get into the clinics, and come see us and get some more information. So I appreciate you guys for being with me each week for the 12 Minutes to Health, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.